Today on Going Bush, we'll attempt to explore one of the big questions in all of forestry. What's better, plantations or native-grown forest timber?
We're looking at the future of harvesting as clear felling in old-growth forest is phased out.
Plus keeping your washing lines smelling smoke-free. And Andrew Hart hands out an angling lesson to some of forestry's fishing wannabes.
That's all coming up in this edition of Going Bush.
So first up on the program today, Hardy, looking at the interesting and important question of which of the two styles of forestry undertaken in Tasmania is best.
Exactly right. There are two types. We've got plantation on one hand, that's on that side of the road there, and then we've got native regen, beautiful native regen forest, Nick, and that's what I'm going to go and look at.
All right, I'm off to the plantations. All right, now one of the big proponents of the plantation argument is none other than Forestry Tasmania Managing Director Bob Gordon. Bob, tell us why you like plantations.
Well, this plantation's on ex-farmland, so it's replacing grass. They grow a lot of wood per hectare, they're highly productive, and they produce a very consistent product which can be used for high quality manufacturing.
And how do they compare in terms of production to regenerated forest?
These forests probably grow 4 to 5 times faster than managed regenerated native forests, and all of the wood they produce ends up being usable.
If you look around, Bob, it's all pretty sort of mathematically laid out, and there isn't much of an understory here. I guess one of the criticisms is there's not a lot of biodiversity.
There's a lot more biodiversity here than there would have been when it was farmland. I know you've got a couple of silver wattle seedlings coming up. These trees will be much better for the soil than constant cropping and ploughing. But you're right, they have less biodiversity than a managed native forest.
All right, now the arguments for plantation seem quite compelling, and I'm joined by Hans Drilsma, who's the Executive General Manager at FT. Mate, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We find ourselves, well, where? In a regen forest.
Yeah, regrowth forest, about 42 years old.
Mate, what are the major differences between this and a plantation?
Well, the main difference is that everything that's growing here comes naturally from this site. So this tree, its parents are trees that grew here in this ecological situation. So it's perfectly adapted to this site.
There's also a lot of other stuff, you know, on the ground. There's many different species.
Yes, so all the species that were here originally are growing here. And we've got a whole range of different species that have come up together with the eucalypts that grew here naturally. And we can see over here some blackwoods.
Oh, yeah.
They've come back. You can see all the ferns. So we're getting all the species that were here originally in the soil, coming up, or from seed fall from elsewhere. And this is going to grow back to a forest that is virtually identical to the forest that's always been here.
So if your plantations is industrial forestry, this is more your environmental forestry?
Absolutely, yes. And it's really mimicking that, or it's really coming back with all those natural processes and all those natural species.
And so, Bob, what's the average lifespan of this plantation? How does it all play out?
Well, all the unpruned trees will be taken out at a thinning sometime pretty soon, about age 9 to 10. So these trees here that have still got the lower limbs on. Yep. And then the trees that have been pruned will last another 10 or 15 years after that, so about a 25-year total rotation.
And is that a long time for a plantation tree?
Forestry Tasmania is one of the few hardwood plantation managers that manages for solid timber products. In about 20 years' time, about half of our high-quality saw logs will come from this type of plantation.
So in another 15 years, that thing there is a high-quality saw log?
Another 15 years, it's about that fat, and it's got that much clear wood all around the outside of it, and it's ready for conversion into floorboard, sawn timber, appearance-grade veneers.
So in a plantation, Hans, they're getting saw logs, you know, after just 25 years, and quite a few of them, but those trees here grow a bit slower.
Yeah, they grow a little bit more slowly, and they're not as tightly packed on the site, so they're not, you know, neat rows, nicely spaced.
Yep.
So the timber actually is better quality. It takes a little bit longer, 80 to 100 years rather than 25. We'll be growing these trees. The quality of the timber will be quite good. The logs will be somewhat bigger, so we think they'll actually command a premium in the market after all that time, and of course, a much more eco-friendly product.
Bob, the trees that are on this plantation, are they a relation to what was here before?
No, this is a monoculture. It's one species, Eucalyptus nitens. The understory is quite simple. Cutting grass, silver wattle, a bit of fern, and that's about it. So it's a much simplified ecosystem than a native forest. But it's a significant improvement on farmland and a significant improvement on farmland that's been converted to plantations.
So one of the fundamental differences between this naturally regenerated site and farmland, say, or plantation,
Yep.
is that all the basic ecological processes are still here and functioning. The nutrient cycling, the soil processes, the biodiversity, the species that have come back are still all here, even though there's been quite a dramatic event when we harvested and burnt it 40 years ago.
And I guess the other thing that's different between a plantation and here is all this stuff on the ground, all this old wood.
Yeah, this stuff, which we call coarse woody debris, and it's a really important habitat for a lot of rare species, beetle species. In fact, there's probably more biodiversity in this stuff and on the ground than all the birds and animals that we have in the rest of the forest.
There's leeches here too, Hans. Get away from those man ferns.
Well, one of the more contentious parts of plantation forestry is the conversion of agricultural land like here into plantations. How do you justify that?
Well, we bought up this land in about 1998 to plant it up. It was marginal farmland at the time. But one of the big opportunities is most farms in Tasmania could put 10% of the farm under trees like this, maybe in wide windrows. They wouldn't decrease the agricultural production at all. Would have great impact in terms of increasing the biodiversity on farmland. They're capturing carbon, and there's an opportunity to diversify markets. So we'd be looking at trying to make sure that farmers with reasonable sized properties had the opportunity to maybe put 10% of their farms under trees with us.
In summary then, monoculture plantations will grow more wood in less time using less space, but they will use chemicals and fertiliser to get that result.
In native forests, the production is completely organic. They store carbon for 4 times as long, and it's a better result for the environment.
So we looked at the plantation. It produces lots of wood from exotic species, and if you want to grow wood for industrial purposes, plantations are the way to go.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a role for plantations, but if you want a really premium, eco-friendly product, you're not going to beat these naturally regenerated forests in Tasmania.
They look pretty good, don't they?
Sure do.